I stood in the kitchen, staring at the envelope in my trembling hands. The return address bore the name of a law firm I didn't recognize. My heart raced as I tore it open, praying it wasn't what I feared. As I unfolded the crisp paper, my world crumbled. Divorce papers. John wanted a divorce. No, I whispered, sinking to the floor. This can't be happening. The sound of keys in the front door jolted me back to reality. I scrambled to my feet, shoving the papers into a drawer just as John walked in. "Maggie," he called, his voice devoid of warmth. "Are you home?" I took a deep breath, plastering on a smile. "In the kitchen, honey." John appeared in the doorway, his suit impeccable as always. He barely glanced at me as he loosened his tie. "I'm going out tonight. Don't wait up." "But John," I started, my voice catching. "I thought we could talk. Maybe have dinner together." He sighed, irritation flashing across his face. "I told you I have plans. We'll talk another time." As he turned to leave, I blurted out, "I'm pregnant." John froze, his back to me. Slowly, he pivoted, his expression unreadable. "What did you say?" I swallowed hard, my hand instinctively moving to my still flat stomach. "I'm pregnant, John. We're having a baby." For a moment, hope fluttered in my chest. Maybe this would change everything. Maybe he'd tear up those divorce papers and we could start fresh. But John's face hardened, his eyes cold. "Are you sure it's mine?" The accusation hit me like a slap. "Of course it's yours. How could you even ask that?" He shrugged, turning away again. "We'll discuss this later. I have to go." As the front door slammed behind him, I sank into a chair, tears streaming down my face. How had we come to this? Where was the man I'd fallen in love with? The phone rang, startling me. I wiped my eyes and answered, recognizing my mother's voice. "Maggie, honey? Are you all right? You sound upset." I hesitated, then the words tumbled out. "Oh, Mom, everything's falling apart. John wants a divorce, and I just found out I'm pregnant." "Oh, sweetheart," she soothed. "I'm coming over right now. You shouldn't be alone." An hour later, I sat on the couch, wrapped in my mother's comforting embrace. "What am I going to do, Mom?" I whispered. She stroked my hair, her voice firm. "You're going to be strong, Maggie. You're going to fight for yourself and that baby." A knock at the door interrupted us. I frowned, wiping my eyes. Who could that be? Mom squeezed my hand. "Why don't you answer it? It might be important." Reluctantly, I stood and made my way to the door. When I opened it, I gasped in surprise. "Ethan," I breathed, staring at my childhood friend. "What are you doing here?" He smiled warmly, concern etched on his handsome face. "Your mom called me. She thought you could use a friend." As I ushered him inside, a tiny spark of hope ignited in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as I thought. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would change my life forever. The morning sun streamed through the curtains as I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the untouched plate of eggs before me. Ethan's visit last night had been a comfort, but reality came crashing back with the dawn. "You need to eat, Maggie," my mother chided gently, sliding into the chair beside me. "For the babies." I nodded, forcing myself to take a bite. As I chewed mechanically, my mind wandered to happier times, when John and I first dreamed of starting a family. "I never thought it would end up like this, Mom," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "We tried for so long to have a baby. And now," Mom squeezed my hand. "I know, sweetheart, but you're stronger than you realize." The sound of a car pulling into the driveway made us both freeze. John's sleek sedan came into view, and my heart raced. "What's he doing here?" Mom muttered, rising to her feet. I stood, smoothing my shirt over my still flat stomach. "I'll handle this." John strode in without knocking, his face a mask of irritation. "Maggie, we need to talk." "Alone," he added, glancing at my mother. Mom opened her mouth to protest, but I shook my head. "It's okay, Mom. I've got this." As soon as we were alone, John's demeanor changed. He paced the living room, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "Look, Maggie, about last night." I was shocked. You can't spring news like that on a man and expect him to react perfectly. I crossed my arms, anger bubbling up. "Shocked? John, we've been trying for years. How could you accuse me of cheating?" He had the decency to look ashamed. "I'm sorry. That was out of line. But Maggie, you have to understand. This changes everything." "Does it?" I challenged. "Because from where I'm standing, nothing's changed. You still want a divorce." John's eyes widened. "How did you?" "I found the papers," I interrupted. "Were you ever going to tell me, or just ambush me with them?" He sank onto the couch, suddenly looking older than his years. "I didn't know how to tell you. And then with the pregnancy. I don't know what to do, Maggie." For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. Then I remembered the years of blame, the cold silences, the growing distance between us. "What about Natalie?" I asked quietly. John's head snapped up. "What?" "Don't lie to me, John. I know about her." "Your ex-intern?" "Really?" He stood abruptly, anger flashing in his eyes. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I shot back. "The late nights at the office, the mysterious phone calls, the way you've been pulling away from me for months. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" John's silence was all the confirmation I needed. Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them back. "Get out," I said, my voice trembling. "I can't do this right now." He hesitated, then nodded curtly. "We'll talk later. About the babies, about everything." As the door closed behind him, I collapsed onto the couch, sobs racking my body. Mom rushed in, enveloping me in a hug. "Oh, Maggie," she murmured. "What happened?" Through my tears, I told her everything. The affair, the divorce, the shattered dreams of the family we'd tried so hard to create. As my sobs subsided, a steely resolve took their place. I sat up, wiping my eyes. "Mom," I said, my voice steady. "I need a lawyer." She nodded, a fierce pride in her eyes. "I think I know just the person. Let me call Ethan." As she reached for the phone, I placed a protective hand on my stomach. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. I would fight for my babies, for my future, with everything I had. The battle was just beginning, and I was ready. The gentle whoosh of the ultrasound filled the room as I lay on the exam table, my heart pounding with anticipation. Dr. Patel moved the wand over my slightly rounded belly, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Well, Mrs. Hawkins," she said, a smile breaking across her face, "I have some exciting news. Do you see these two little shapes here?" I squinted at the screen, my breath catching. "Are those?" Dr. Patel nodded. "Congratulations, you're having twins." Tears of joy sprang to my eyes as I stared at the grainy images of my babies. After years of disappointment and heartache, here they were, two tiny miracles. As I left the clinic, clutching the ultrasound photos, reality set in. Twins. I was having twins, and I was facing this journey alone. My phone buzzed with a text from John. "How did the appointment go?" I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to share this moment with him, to believe that the news of two babies might rekindle the love we once shared. But the memory of his cold reaction to my pregnancy stopped me. Instead, I called my mother. "Mom," I said, my voice trembling with excitement, "I'm having twins." Her joyful exclamation warmed my heart. "Oh, Maggie, that's wonderful news. I'm coming over right now to celebrate." An hour later, Mom and I sat on my porch, sipping lemonade and poring over baby name books. For a moment, I allowed myself to bask in the simple joy of planning for my children's future. "Have you told John yet?" Mom asked gently, breaking the spell. I sighed, setting down my glass. "No. I don't know how." She squeezed my hand. "You'll have to tell him eventually, sweetheart. He is their father." The sound of a car door slamming made us both look up. John strode up the walkway, his face a mask of irritation. "Maggie," he called, "we need to talk." Mom stood, gathering her things. "I'll give you two some privacy. Remember, Maggie, you're stronger than you know." As she left, John took her seat, his eyes fixed on the ultrasound photos on the table. "Twins?" he asked, his voice oddly flat. I nodded, steeling myself. "Yes, John. We're having twins." He ran a hand through his hair, sighing heavily. "Maggie, this complicates things." "The divorce complicates things?" I interrupted, anger flaring. "These are our children, John. Our babies that we tried for years to have. How can you be so cold?" John's face hardened. "I'm trying to be practical. We're not in a good place, Maggie. You know that. And whose fault is that?" I shot back. "You're the one who cheated. You're the one who wants a divorce." He stood abruptly, pacing the porch. "I never meant for any of this to happen. Natalie, it just happened." The casual mention of his mistress's name felt like a slap. "Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Get out of my house, John." He hesitated, then nodded curtly. "We'll need to discuss arrangements for the babies. My lawyer will be in touch." As he walked away, I felt a strange mix of grief and relief wash over me. This was it, the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "How did the appointment go?" "Everything okay." A small smile tugged at my lips as I replied, "It's twins. Can you come over? I could use a friend right now." As I waited for Ethan, I placed a protective hand over my growing belly. "It's just us now, little ones," I whispered. "But I promise we're going to be okay." The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it, for myself and for my babies. The first wave of nausea hit me as I stepped out of the shower. I barely made it to the toilet before emptying the contents of my stomach. As I sat on the cold tile floor, shivering and miserable, I realized this was more than just normal morning sickness. My phone buzzed on the counter. John's name flashed on the screen, but I ignored it. He'd made his feelings about the pregnancy clear, and I couldn't bear another cold, distant conversation. Instead, I called my doctor. An hour later, I was back in her office, hooked up to N4 for dehydration. "Hyperemesis gravidarum," Dr. Patel explained gently. "It's severe morning sickness, more common in twin pregnancies. We'll need to monitor you closely, Maggie." I nodded, fighting back tears. "What about work? I have a big presentation next week." She shook her head. "I'm putting you on bed rest for at least 2 weeks. Your health and the baby's health have to come first." As I left the clinic, clutching a handful of prescriptions and care instructions, panic set in. How was I going to manage this alone? John had made it clear he wanted no part in the pregnancy, and I couldn't burden my mother with round-the-clock care. I was so lost in thought that I almost ran into someone outside my apartment building. "Maggie," a familiar voice said. "Are you okay?" I looked up to see Ethan, concern etched on his face. Before I could stop myself, I burst into tears. Ethan didn't hesitate. He wrapped me in a warm hug, letting me sob into his shoulder. "Come on," he said softly. "Let's get you inside." Once in my apartment, Ethan listened patiently as I poured out everything. The diagnosis, the bed rest, my fears about the future. "I don't know how I'm going to do this," I whispered, wiping my eyes. Ethan took my hand, his touch comforting. "You're not alone, Maggie. I'm here, your mom's here. We'll figure this out together." Just then my phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from John. "We need to discuss the divorce proceedings. My lawyer wants to meet next week." I showed Ethan the message, fresh tears welling up. How can he be so callous? I'm carrying his children, and all he cares about is the divorce. Ethan's jaw clenched. "This isn't right, Maggie. You need to fight back." "How?" I asked, feeling utterly defeated. "Let me help you," Ethan said, his voice firm. "I'm a lawyer, remember? We can build a case, make sure you and the babies are protected." For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope. "You'd do that for me?" He smiled, squeezing my hand. "Of course. That's what friends are for." As Ethan began outlining a plan, my phone buzzed once more. It was an email from my boss, asking about the upcoming presentation. With shaking hands, I typed out a response, explaining my situation and requesting medical leave. What if I lose my job? I whispered, the fear threatening to overwhelm me again. Ethan's voice was steady, reassuring. Then we'll deal with that too. One step at a time, Maggie. I took a deep breath, feeling a new resolve settle over me. John might have given up on our family, but I refused to let his actions dictate my future, or my children's. Okay, I said, meeting Ethan's gaze. Let's do this. It's time I started fighting for myself and my babies. As Ethan nodded, a determined smile on his face, I felt a shift inside me. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time, I truly believed I had the strength to face it. Little did I know the biggest battles and the most surprising allies were yet to come. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows of my mother's cozy living room as I settled onto the couch, my swollen feet propped up on a cushion. 2 weeks of bed rest had left me restless and anxious, but at least the severe morning sickness had subsided. Maggie, dear, Mom called from the kitchen, Ethan's here to see you. My heart skipped a beat at the mention of his name. Over the past weeks, Ethan had become my rock, helping me navigate the murky waters of impending divorce and high-risk pregnancy. Ethan entered, his warm smile instantly lifting my spirits. How are you feeling today? He asked, settling into the armchair beside me. Better, I replied, rubbing my growing belly. The twins have been active today. His eyes lit up. That's great news, Maggie. Listen, I have some information about John that you need to hear. The seriousness in his tone made me sit up straighter. What is it? Ethan took a deep breath. I've been doing some digging, and it turns out John's been funneling money into a separate account for months. An account he shares with Natalie. The room seemed to spin. What? How much money? A lot, Maggie. Enough to suggest he's been planning this for a while. Tears stung my eyes as the full weight of John's betrayal hit me. Not only had he cheated, but he'd been systematically hiding assets, preparing to leave me with nothing. There's more, Ethan continued gently. I ran into Natalie at the courthouse yesterday. She's pregnant too. The words hit me like a physical blow. I doubled over, a cry of anguish escaping my lips. Mom rushed in, wrapping her arms around me as I sobbed. Through my tears, I saw Ethan, his face a mix of concern and determination. Maggie, I know this is hard, but we can use this information. We can fight back. I wiped my eyes, a strange calm settling over me. You're right. No more tears. It's time to take action. Just then my phone buzzed. It was a text from John. Meeting with lawyers tomorrow. 2 p.m. Be there. I showed the message to Ethan, my jaw set. I'll be there, all right. And I'll be ready. The next day, I walked into the law office with my head held high, Ethan by my side. John's eyes widened in surprise when he saw us together. What's he doing here? John demanded. Ethan's my lawyer, I replied coolly. And we have some things to discuss. For the next hour, Ethan methodically laid out everything we'd discovered. The hidden accounts, the affair with Natalie, her pregnancy. With each revelation, John's face grew paler. You can't prove any of this, he sputtered. Ethan's smile was razor-sharp. Actually, we can. And we will, if you don't agree to our terms. As Ethan outlined our demands, a fair division of assets, full financial support for the twins, the house, I watched John's arrogant facade crumble. You've got 24 hours to decide, I said, standing up. Choose wisely, John. As we left the office, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in months, I felt powerful, in control. Ethan squeezed my hand. You were amazing in there, Maggie. I looked up at him, seeing him in a new light. The way he'd stood by me, fought for me. It stirred something deep inside. Ethan, I said softly, I don't know what I'd do without you. He gazed at me, his eyes full of an emotion I wasn't ready to name. You'll never have to find out, he promised. As we walked out into the sunlight, I realized I was at a crossroads. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, I felt ready to face whatever came next. with Ethan by my side. The manila folder felt heavy in my hands as I sat across from John in our once shared living room. My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. "I think you should take a look at this, John." He eyed me warily before opening the folder. As he flipped through the contents, his face drained of color. Bank statements, hotel receipts, photographs. All damning evidence of his affair with Natalie and his attempts to hide assets. "How did you?" he started, but I cut him off. "It doesn't matter how. What matters is what you're going to do about it." John's eyes narrowed. "Is this blackmail, Maggie?" I leaned forward, my voice low and determined. "This is me fighting for my children, John. For the life you promised me." Just then my phone buzzed. It was Ethan. "Maggie, we've got a problem. Natalie's at the courthouse, filing for spousal support. You need to get down here now." My blood ran cold. I stood abruptly, grabbing my purse. "This isn't over, John." As I rushed to the courthouse, my mind raced. How could Natalie file for support when she wasn't even married to John? Unless... The realization hit me like a truck. They must have gotten married in secret. I burst into the courthouse, spotting Ethan immediately. His face was grim. "Maggie, I'm so sorry. I just found out. They're married." I finished for him. "How long?" 3 months, he replied softly. "Before you found out about the pregnancy." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I gripped the nearest bench, struggling to breathe. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, was a lie. "There's more," Ethan continued, his voice gentle. "Natalie's claiming John's the father of her baby." A hysterical laugh bubbled up in my throat. "Of course he is. Why not? He's already taken everything else from me." Ethan's hand on my shoulder steadied me. "Not everything, Maggie. You still have the twins. You still have a case. We can fight this." I looked up at him, seeing the determination in his eyes. Something shifted inside me, a steely resolve taking root. "You're right," I said, straightening up. "We're not backing down." We marched into the courtroom, where Natalie sat with her lawyer. Her smug smile faltered when she saw me. For the next hour, Ethan masterfully presented our case, revealing John and Natalie's deception. The judge listened intently, her expression growing sterner by the minute. As we left the courthouse, a small victory under our belts. The judge had frozen John's assets pending further investigation. I felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. "What now?" I asked Ethan as we walked to his car. "Now," he said, a fierce glint in his eye. "We go for the knockout punch. We file for divorce on grounds of adultery and financial misconduct. We push for full custody and maximum support." I nodded, my hand instinctively moving to my swollen belly. "Let's do it." That night, as I lay in bed, the babies kicking up a storm, my phone lit up with a text from John. "We need to talk. Please." For a moment, I was tempted to ignore it. But then I thought of all the lies, all the betrayal, and I knew I needed closure. I typed back, "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., your office." As I set the phone down, a contraction rippled through me, stronger than any I'd felt before. I glanced at the clock, 11:23 p.m. Another contraction hit, and I realized with a mix of panic and awe that my water had broken. "Not now," I whispered to my unborn twins. "Please, not yet. Mommy has one more battle to fight." But as the contractions intensified, I knew the babies had their own plans. The final showdown with John would have to wait. I reached for my phone, dialing Ethan's number. "It's time," I said when he answered. "The babies are coming." His response was immediate. "I'm on my way." As I waited for Ethan, breathing through the contractions, I steeled myself for the biggest challenge yet. Tomorrow, one way or another, everything would change. The hospital room was a blur of activity as another contraction ripped through me. I gripped Ethan's hand, my knuckles white with the effort. "You're doing great, Maggie," he encouraged, wiping my brow with a cool cloth. 12 hours of labor had left me exhausted, but I refused to give up. These babies were fighters, just like their mother. "Where's John?" I gasped between contractions. Despite everything, A part of me still wanted him here for this moment. Ethan's jaw tightened. I've been calling him. No answer. Before I could respond, Dr. Patel entered the room. All right, Maggie, it's time to push. These little ones are ready to meet the world. The next hour was a haze of pain, determination, and finally, the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. The cries of my newborn twins. Congratulations, Dr. Patel beamed, placing a tiny bundle in each of my arms. You have a healthy boy and girl. Tears streamed down my face as I gazed at their perfect little faces. Hello, my loves, I whispered. I'm your mommy. Ethan stood beside us, his eyes glistening. They're beautiful, Maggie. Just like you. The moment was shattered by a commotion in the hallway. John burst into the room, his face flushed and eyes wild. Am I too late? He panted. I instinctively tightened my hold on the babies. You're about 9 months too late, John. His eyes darted between me, the twins, and Ethan. I see you didn't waste any time replacing me, he sneered. Ethan stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. You need to leave, John. Now. But John wasn't finished. He pulled a stack of papers from his jacket. I'm not going anywhere until Maggie signs these. My heart sank as I recognized the divorce papers. Even now, in this sacred moment, he couldn't let go of his bitterness. Are you serious? I asked, disbelief coloring my voice. I just gave birth to your children, and this is what you bring? John's face hardened. Sign the papers, Maggie. It's over. A strange calm washed over me. I looked down at my babies, then back at John. You're right. It is over. But not on your terms. I nodded to Ethan, who produced a folder from his briefcase. These are our terms, John. Full custody, generous child support, and half of all assets, including those you tried to hide. John's face paled. You can't do this. Watch me, I replied, my voice steady. You have a choice. Sign these papers, or we take this to court and air all your dirty laundry. For a moment, I thought he might argue. But then, defeated, he took the pen Ethan offered and signed. As John slunk out of the room, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I looked at Ethan, gratitude overwhelming me. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. He smiled, gently stroking one of the baby's cheeks. Always, Maggie. I'll always be here for you and these little ones. As I gazed at my newborns, a fierce love and protectiveness surged through me. The road ahead would be challenging, but I was ready. With Ethan by my side and my babies in my arms, I felt invincible. Welcome to the world, Emma and Liam, I murmured, kissing their soft heads. Mommy promises to give you the best life possible. Ethan's hand found mine, squeezing gently. In that moment, surrounded by love and new beginnings, I knew that the best chapter of my life was just beginning. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. I was no longer the woman who had started this journey. I was stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever came next. With my babies and Ethan by my side, I was finally turning the page to a new, beautiful chapter of my life. The twins' first birthday party was in full swing, our backyard filled with the laughter of family and friends. As I watched Emma and Liam toddle around, smearing cake on their chubby cheeks, I marveled at how much had changed in just 1 year. Penny, for your thoughts? Ethan's warm voice pulled me from my reverie. He handed me a glass of lemonade, his fingers brushing mine. Just thinking about how far we've come, I smiled, leaning into him. Suddenly, a hush fell over the gathering. I turned to see John standing awkwardly at the gate, a wrapped gift in his hands. I hope it's okay that I came, he said, his voice uncertain. I wanted to see the kids. For a moment, I was transported back to that hospital room a year ago, when he'd burst in with divorce papers. But the anger that had once consumed me was gone, replaced by a calm acceptance. Of course, I nodded. They're your children, too. As John made his way to the twins, I felt Ethan tense beside me. Are you sure about this? He whispered. I squeezed his hand. It's time to let go of the past. We watched as John knelt before Emma and Liam, presenting them with the gift. The twins, oblivious to the complex emotions swirling around them, gleefully tore into the wrapping paper. "Maggie." John approached us, his face etched with regret. "Can we talk?" Ethan started to protest, but I placed a hand on his arm. "It's okay," I assured him. To John, I said, "Let's take a walk." As we strolled to the far end of the yard, John cleared his throat. "I owe you an apology. For everything." I waited, letting the silence stretch between us. "Natalie left," he continued. "Turns out, the baby wasn't mine after all. I've lost everything, Maggie. My job, my reputation. I realize now what I threw away. A year ago, his words might have filled me with vindication. Now I felt only pity. I'm sorry things didn't work out, John, but I hope you can find happiness." He looked at me, surprise evident in his eyes. "How can you be so forgiving?" I glanced back at the party, at Ethan playing with the twins, at my mother chatting with friends. "Because I've found my happiness, and holding on to anger would only dim that light." As we rejoined the party, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The final page of our shared story had been turned. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of cake, presents, and laughter. As the last guest left, I sank onto the porch swing, exhausted but content. Ethan joined me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "You okay?" he asked softly. I nodded, snuggling closer. "More than okay. I feel free." He took a deep breath, and I sensed a shift in his demeanor. "Maggie, there's something I need to tell you." My heart raced as I met his gaze. "What is it?" "I love you," he said simply. "I think I always have. And if you'll have me, I want to spend the rest of my life loving you and those amazing kids of yours." Tears welled in my eyes as the truth I'd known in my heart for months finally found voice. "Oh, Ethan, I love you too." As our lips met in a tender kiss, I heard the twins' laughter from inside. My heart swelled with joy and gratitude for this beautiful, unexpected life. Later that night, as I tucked Emma and Liam into bed, I whispered, "Sweet dreams, my loves. Mommy promises the best is yet to come." Closing their nursery door, I paused to look at the framed photo on the wall. A snapshot of Ethan, the twins, and me at the park, all of us laughing. It was a far cry from the life I'd once imagined, but it was perfect in its own way. As I joined Ethan on the couch, his arm automatically wrapping around me, I realized that sometimes the most beautiful stories are the ones we never saw coming. My journey had been filled with tears and heartache, but it led me here. To love, to family, to a happiness deeper than I'd ever known. And as I drifted off to sleep in Ethan's arms, I knew that the best chapter of my life was just beginning.